taking players off the NFL draft board because of character problems. It is something that's debated and talked about, and I wanted to give some context into what goes into the process. Different teams have different philosophies. I always felt like we had codes on the great players' draft cards. The draft cards would indicate a certain level of problems medically, certain problems with maybe chemical abuse, or just character issues. And a different color code meant something different. And I believed in keeping a player on the draft board and putting a full color-coded shield, as we called it, on the card. That just meant we passed over the player. That was the same thing as taking him off the board. Some literally just take the player off the board, and they think it's maybe because they wouldn't take him. Just because I keep a player on the board does not mean I would take him. It just means that somebody else might take him, and he might end up playing in the league, or he might overcome whatever his problem is. And I wanted my scouting staff, myself and my scouting staff, to evaluate the player in all areas. Every player needs to be fully vetted and evaluated, medically, character-wise, mentally, intelligence-wise, character-wise, football character, personal character, and on the field, football evaluations. I wanted to evaluate the player even if I wouldn't take him. He might end up playing in the league, might end up having to play against him, and I needed to be prepared fully on how you properly evaluated a football player and what his skill set was or wasn't. Because even though he might be looking like someone who would never play in the league because of character or medicals, I've seen players time and time again overcome it. And if they end up in the league, you might have a decision down the road. So do the work, make your decision. In my opinion, keep the player on the board with the proper coding on it so that you pass over. I also looked at the possibility with the level of the color code. If it was maybe a 3/4 or half, that might be a player that if he were still around later in the draft and I could mitigate the risk, I might take him then. It might be worth the risk at that point. Before, not so much. So I think keeping a player on the board and using a code, which essentially eliminates from taking them, is the best way to do it. But check out LandryFootball.com. I got more analysis of this and how other people and people in the league think about running, whether to take a player off their draft board or not. Appreciate you joining us. Follow us if you would, and please spread the word. We need more followers so that we can continue to bring you this football content. Talk to you again next time, everybody.